Okay, our first question for homework tonight is a force question, August 1997. Two forces act on a body. I told you guys as soon as you read that as part of a question, draw that diagram. So there's that object or that body, and then you have your two forces acting on it with that resultant someplace in the middle. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. The first force has a magnitude of 85 pounds. Doesn't matter which one you label, your first or your second force. The angle is 31 degrees 30 minutes with the resultant. Remember, 30 minutes out of 60, it's going to turn to 0.5. So the angle is 31 degrees 30 minutes, so 31.5 with the resultant. That's this, 31.5. That's that angle in here. The magnitude of the resultant force, they give you that. That's 130. And part A, the question is, it's over here, find the magnitude of the second force. We're looking for this. Okay? Make it a diagram that has that parallelogram of forces that we talked about. Okay, label everything. This is 85. This is going to be X. This angle is 31.5. There's really not too much that I know. I know that this angle might be the same, but I'm not really going to label that yet. Once you have everything labeled, separate your problem into your triangles. This is 85. This is X. This is 31.5. And this is 130. Okay, so the question now is, what type of information do we have? First thing we're supposed to go through is there's nothing that leads us to believe it's a right triangle. Move on. Then we go to law of cosines. Law of cosines says if we're given a side angle side and we're looking for that third side, we use it. In this case, it's perfect. Law of cosine, side angle side, looking for the third side. So let's write the formula down. Copy it from the formula sheet. All you have to do for now. Then you have to know that these two are linked. So if this is the angle that we're going to use, the side opposite that angle is going to be x, and that's going to be by itself on this side. So I have x squared equals. And then the other two sides, 85 squared plus 130 squared minus 2 times 85 times 130 cosine of my angle, which is 31.5. Okay? So now everything becomes calculator. So I can get that calculator out. I'll put it over here. I'll move this up. So let's start. First part I told you guys to calculate is that piece. 85 raised to the second plus 130 raised. No, let me clear the calculator and get everything going. There you go. 85 raised to the second plus 130 raised to the second. Where you get 24,125. Minus, then if you want you can throw all that in. That's fine. 2 times 85 times 130 times cosine of 31.5. Hit enter. We get 18,843. Take this out 4 decimal places. 3, 4, 7, 6. So then we're going to have x squared is equal to 24,125 minus 18,843.3476 equals, we have 5,281.6524. And then I want to take the square root of that. So x is going to equal second square root, second answer. And we're going to get 72.675. And the question wants it rounded to the nearest. Go back to the question. Make sure you answer it in the form that they want, nearest tenth of a pound. So now looking at my answer, nearest tenth of a pound, that's where I'm rounding. X is equal to 72.7. Yay.
Are we paused?
Yeah, we're paused.
Okay.
What are those?
What are what?
Oh, tomatoes?
Where?
Right here.
Yeah, it's a kind of tomato. It's
Oh,
a dry.
okay.
Here, try.
I don't like tomatoes.
You might like this. Try this.
Nah.
Try this.
No.
It's different.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Alright. It's a good tomato, Steve. I'm telling you. It's a nice tomato. You don't know what you're missing. A lot of grocery store tomatoes, I don't buy them anymore. I don't like them. They don't taste like anything, and they have terrible texture. These are okay. They're not as good as my farmer's market tomatoes, but they're better than like normal grocery store tomatoes.
Alright, I gotta see if I'm gonna have enough room on this paper. I'm gonna back this up and finish this question. Alright. Clear that out. Let's go back. Okay, the next piece that we're gonna have to do is the part B to the question. We take a look at the part B. The part B says, using the results from part A, so we're going to use that answer we just got, find to the nearest 10 minutes or nearest tenth of a degree. So if they give me the option, I'm going to keep it as nearest tenth. The angle that the second force makes with the resultant. Well, here's the second force, which is what we just found. So now we know that's 72.7 according to that first answer. And now I'm looking for this angle. So once again, make a diagram of that triangle, label what you know. I know that this is 72.7. I know that this side's 85. I know that this is 130, and I'm looking for this angle. And once again, you can tell that we're given all three sides looking for an angle. We could use law of sines, but I'm going to stick in this case with law of cosines. I just want you guys to see that done finding an angle. So if this is the angle, there's the side opposite. Here's my formula. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine A. Remember, you'll just read that off the formula sheet. The angle I'm looking for is here. The side opposite is squared by itself. B I'm going to call 130. C I'm going to call 72.7. So that's being squared. 2 times 130 times 72.7 times the cosine of x. This time we don't know what that x is. Right? Again, with the calculator, we can evaluate. So now I'm going to evaluate this, and the number in front of the cosine. So you can plug the numbers in later. I'm going to just do that quickly. So there's my 85 squared. I have 130 raised to the second plus 72.7 raised to the second. There's going to be another number I'm going to use. Then I'm going to get my 2 times 130 times 72.7, and there's my other number. So I have my first number, which is 7,225 equals, then all of this is going to become 22,185.29, big numbers. I'm going to subtract out 18,902 cosine x. The key here to this problem is let's get cosine x by itself. So algebraically, how do we do that? Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this 22,185.29 from both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to get 7225 minus 22,185.29, negative 14,960.29 is going to equal, on this side now I have negative 18,902 cosine x. I'll divide by that negative 18,902, negative 18,902. And I'm going to jump to this side and carry this up over here. So when I do that, 14 negative divided by negative is positive, so I'm not even going to worry about that. So now I'm going to get that decimal point, 7915, bring it at least 4 decimal places, is going to equal cosine x. And remember, if I want to get rid of cosine, I use cosine inverse. Cosine negative 1 of 0.7915. That'll equal the measure of angle x. So the measure of angle x to the nearest tenth of a degree. Let's see what the calculator says. 37.7 degrees. And that's it. These guys are idiots outside.
Yeah, they like to make noises. Kind of weird. I don't know though, I feel like doing stupid things is like kind of part of being a teenager.
Oh, it is. And they don't know what I'm doing in here, so I can't blame them. All right, I'm going to get into this part B now, and here we go. It lets me. All right, second question, June 1998, and it's a part B question, so it's not a full 10-pointer, it's just worth 6, so there's a lot less that we have to do with this problem as we did with the first. So here we go. Two forces of 40 pounds and 70 pounds act on a body. So as we did in class, as soon as we read that, there's our diagram. One force is at 40 and the other force is at 70. Okay? And it says the act on a body at an angle measuring 60 degrees. So the angle between the two forces is 60 degrees. That angle in there. Find the magnitude of the resultant force. So we're looking for that. Okay? So let's finish it off. It becomes a parallelogram of forces. Separate out one of the triangles, and let's see what we have. This is 40. This side is up here, and it's opposite the 70. In a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal. This whole angle is 60. I can't really use that here, but I can use it here, because angles next to each other in a parallelogram have to be supplementary. So if this is 60, then I know this angle here is 120, and we're looking for that side. All right? So now nothing in the triangle, nothing. SOHCAHTOA we can try, but nothing in this diagram would lead me to believe that it's a right triangle, so we move on. We go to law of cosines. Am I given a side angle side looking for a third side? The answer is yes. So we're going to use our law of cosines, write the formula out. A squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine A. Let's plug in what we know. Here's the part that's really critical, that 120 and the x, they're opposite, so x has to be by itself, so x squared is equal to, and then 40 and 70 can be plugged in to b and c in any order. Cosine of 120. Okay? We're going to evaluate this in two pieces. Now this, what I want to show you, is going to be very interesting in the second piece, but it's very important that you see and we don't make a mistake with this. So there's the calculator. We clear things out. All right, I'm going to do the 40 squared plus the 70 squared. And there's my first part. So I have x squared is equal to 6,500. All right, there's my minus. So I'm going to drop the minus sign down. I'm not going to put it as far as the problem. Now I'm going to evaluate all of this and watch what happens. 2 times 40 times 70 times cosine 120. I believe I have everything in there. I hit enter. I get negative 2,800. Now you don't know why, because we haven't done it yet, why the cosine of 120. That's the reason why the second piece becomes negative. That negative sign there comes from the cosine 120. And we'll talk about that later. But right now just take the answer, because the minus sign was already there, so I bring that minus sign down, and you can see that these two things will then add. All right, so I get x squared is equal to 6,500 plus 2,800. I'm going to wind up with 9,300. Take the square root of both sides, so x is going to be the square root of 9,300. So x is going to equal, I go back up to the problem, and it says nearest hundredth of a pound. So I want to take this out 3 decimal places. Second, square root, 9,300. Enter. So I get 96.436. So nearest hundredth, the 3 represents the hundredth, so it's going to be 96.446. pounds. And finally, our last question is from August 1998. It's a parallelogram question. So again, before we get started, we are going to draw the diagram. So I'm going to draw a parallelogram here. There we have parallelogram ABCD. It really doesn't matter, even if you have the obtuse angle labeled wrong, it's okay. Just gather the information. AB is 14, BC is 20, angle B is 54. That's what we have so far. Find to the nearest tenth the length of diagonal BD. They want to know that diagonal. Okay, so let's separate this diagram out into a triangle that has BD in it. All right, so this is A, this is B, and this is D. All right, this side's 14. This side here is going to be opposite to 20. In a parallelogram, opposite sides are going to be equal. We're looking for this diagonal. Okay? Now, this angle here is not going to be 54. All right, the angle B, all of angle B is 54. This piece ABD is going to be part of that, but we just don't know what part. So instead of using and guessing, which is what we don't want to do, what each of these two pieces are going to be, because the diagonals don't bisect the angles they come from in a parallelogram, I'm going to jump down here. Okay? If it says all of angle B is 54, then what I know is I know that this angle here is going to be the supplement of that. All right? So if it's going to be the supplement of that, because two angles next to each other in a parallelogram, even though it doesn't look like it, don't worry about it. It's just my drawing too. So it's going to be 180 minus 54, which is 126. So that's what I have. All right, so now, again, nothing in the diagram to lead me to believe it's a right triangle, so don't go there. Let's use, then we go law of cosines, side, angle, side, looking for the third side. All right, so this is a law of cosines question. So a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc, cosine of my angle. This is the important piece, that these two are put in their right spot. This is the angle, so the side opposite gets placed here. Then I go 14 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 14 times 20 times the cosine of 126. Okay? Evaluate and evaluate. So here we go. Calculator, where can I put it? Can I put it here? And we can see. I think so. All right, so let's do that. We clear that out. I get 14 squared plus 26 squared. And we're going to get, go to, what did I do? Oh, 14, let me clear that out. 14 squared plus 20 squared. We're going to get 596. And this is x squared equals. Then I'm going to drop my minus sign down. 2 times 14 times 20 times the cosine of 126. And that becomes a negative value. Minus 329 point, bring it out 4, 1, 5, 9, 7. The minus and minus is going to change to a plus. Sorry, you didn't see all that. Minus and minus changes to a plus. All right, so then I have x squared is equal to 596 plus 329.1597. I'm going to get 925.1597. X is going to equal the square root of that. So x is going to equal, and we want to round this to the nearest tenth. So we get 30.4.
I don't even want to see another turkey.
So when we finish that problem, we get 30.4. Part B. Hey, how are you? Okay, let's see if we can get part B done here. Part B says find the measure of angle DBC. So I want to find the measure of angle DBC. It's going to be this angle up here. So I'm going to try to get that triangle graphed. I'm looking for that angle. Here's B, here's C, here's D. I know that this side's 14 because opposite sides are going to be equal. I know that that side's 20. What else do I know? I know that BD is now 30.4. Alright, and I also know that I said angle A was 126, so I know that this angle here is 126. So I'm going to elect to do law of sines for this one. Even though I could do law of cosines, I'm going to do law of sines. So let's see. I take the formula A over sine A is equal to B over sine B, just because I think we need practice with this. All right, the way law of sines works is if you take the side opposite, 14, and put it over the sine of the angle, well, that's the angle I'm looking for, x, is equal to the side we found, which is 30.4, over the sine of the angle opposite.
Soccer players who are playing in the Algebra tournament must see Coach Powers today. Please come and support the girls varsity basketball team as they play in the sectional semifinals at Pine Plains High School beginning at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Last year's crowd were a big inspiration to the team as they won the sectional championship. Please help us in our quest to repeat as sectional champions. All JV girls basketball players must see Coach Powers today. The art club will meet after school in the art room today. There will be a student council meeting Thursday at 3 in room 15. Mr. Higgins and Mr. Simmons SSA will meet tomorrow at 3 in room 15. There will be a baseball interest meeting tomorrow, period X, in the cafeteria. Wrestlers, please meet in the auditorium, period X, for team picture. Happy birthday today to Olivia Hopkins. Thank you.
All right, sorry for that. And now let's finish this question. To finish this question, we're going to take a look at how to get that sine x by itself. So what I'm going to do, once you set this up, we can cross multiply. This becomes 30.4 sine x is equal to, and I'm going to multiply these two, 14 sine 126. Now remember, I'm not going to pick up that calculator until I get sine by itself. So I'm going to divide by 30.4, divide by 30.4. All right, so I'm going to get sine of x is equal to all of this, 14 sine 126 divided by 30.4. All right, so the measure of angle x is simply going to be the sine inverse of 14 sine 126 divided by 30.4. Okay, so the measure of angle x is going to be, and watch how we do that using the calculator. So the way I would do this is I would kind of come up with a number first. So I would go 14 sine 126. I would hit enter. And then I would take that number and I would divide it by 30.4. And so now that becomes the number I want to take the sine inverse of. So now I'm going to hit second sine, second, and then the negative sign, which is your answer. And that gets put right there, or you can type it out, hit enter, and I get the angle. And the question wanted the angle to the nearest degree. So if I want the angle to the nearest degree, I get an angle of, I'll move this up a little bit and finish the question. 21 angle to the nearest degree, so 21.8 becomes 22 degrees. And that finishes the homework assignment.